I wanted to hop on here for a minute to try and address a little bit of this Palestinian-Israeli war and conflict. This, I know for a lot of people, seems to be some sort of onion-layered geopolitical situation, but it's not. And there's reports right now suggesting that Netanyahu's opposition has basically caved to create an emergency unity leadership as this battle rages. And it ultimately means that he gets to stay in power. And this angers me. It hurts my soul because this man is not only on trial for corruption, he's a modern-day King Herod. He's an absolute modern-day King Herod, and he's sacrificing his own people for his own power. And sadly, the United States and the White West support him. I know for a lot of people, this seems like some geopolitical issue that's far away, so we just turn our heads from it, but we can't anymore. It's actually an issue of domestic violence, which I will write more about. But what angers me right now is that he gets to stay in power and he puts his own people at risk. I have friends, Israeli friends and Palestinian friends, who so desperately want to live in peace with each other as brothers and sisters on an incredibly beautiful land. But it doesn't happen because not only does their leadership able to maintain its power and its propaganda, but it gets the West to supply it, particularly the United States, $3.8 billion a year to its military. I wrote the other day, do you guys realize also how many of those security forces who are participating in this violence have U.S. passports and are dual citizens? How many illegal settlers are dual citizens on the land that they're not supposed to be on? So the United States is supporting apartheid policy. The United States is supporting this abuse. And the truth is, the Israeli people are suffering from it too, because their government continues to instill fear in them, continues to lie to them, and manipulate and gaslight a situation. And we as American people have to take a stand against that. There has to be a consequence for those actions. Now, I want to address for a moment Christian people, especially white Christian people in America, who by and large blindly support the land grab of the Israeli government's apartheid system. And you blindly support it because you have some notion in your head that if the Israeli government, gets all of this land, then what, Jesus comes back? And then what, your Jewish brothers and sisters go to hell? They don't even believe in that hell. But at the end of the day, you don't actually care, and I would encourage you to reevaluate what you're actually supporting. Because what you're supporting is the destruction of people's homes. And what you're supporting is the abuse of Palestinian Christians who are more your brother and sister in faith and religious belief system. That's the thing. There are Jews, Muslims, and Palestinians who are all suffering from this entire space because at the end of the day, it's not actually religious. It's about humanity. And the system is a crime against humanity. The Israeli government does not reflect the beauty of the Jewish tradition. It doesn't. It doesn't. It is destroying people's lives. It's killing children and mothers and fathers and brothers and sisters. And it's lying to its own people and instilling fear into its own people. And Netanyahu gets to stay in power and be king. If you are a person who says you believe in Christianity and you don't like the character of King Herod in the Bible, right? Then you need to reevaluate your support of the Israeli government now. This breaks my soul. I lived there for 3.5 years. I reported on it. I've seen with my own eyes. And it is it is so heartbreaking. And I am on the side of the living. I don't want one person to be harmed. I don't want one person to be dead. But we need to evaluate the reality of the situation where the abused became the abusers. And the ones who are being abused now are fighting back. And you know, Trevor Noah said it the other day that when you look at who has the bigger weapons, when you look at who has the most responsibility, it's the person with the most power. The Israeli government has more power because the United States gives them that. There's no two-state solution. Look, I know that there's layers of this. There's no two-state solution. If a two-state solution were to be real, let's just pretend. Let's pretend that it was viable for like just a minute. What would actually need to happen for it to work? Well, one, the occupation would need to completely end, and security forces would need to leave illegal occupied lands. They would need to leave. The settlers would need to leave the land that they've been illegally occupying. Because according to, like, if we could just go back to 1967 agreement, they aren't supposed to be there. So they would all have to leave. And is that going to happen? No, it's not going to happen. And finally, the Palestinian Authority would, and they have their own problems, but the Palestinian Authority would have to be in full control of the territories and being able to be recognized as some sort of state, and there would have to be a right of return. Those things would need to happen for a two-state solution to be even real. We know a lot of those things are not going to happen, so a two-state solution then cannot be real. And honestly, a lot of Palestinians that I've talked to have talked about a one-state solution, fully democratic system. Now, is that going to happen? Maybe not. I don't have the answers, but what I do know is we need to start having real, honest evaluation of this situation. And American people, if you care, you need to call your congressional members and your Senate members, and you need to demand that a bill go to the floor that sanctions the military, the foreign military funding that is given to forces that implement apartheid and abusive policies. That needs to happen, and it needs to be applied to this situation. I'm passionate today because as the news rolls out, it affects my soul. It affects my being, and it should affect yours too. This is a really important issue. If you guys check my profile, I did a post on this the other day that explains more and even recommends some folks that you can follow. And for those of you who are in the Christian faith in America, I would recommend that you follow. There are some Israeli and Jewish organizations that are standing with Palestinians, that are fighting with Palestinian people, that are protesting, and you can check those out and follow their profiles as well, because what they're doing is brilliant and holy. Really, really holy. We've got to have a different conversation. So thank you for taking a couple of minutes to listen. Feel free to throw me questions if you like, but just spend today reevaluating this space. Peace and love.